Hello, and welcome to Columbus Local Podcast. I am Len D'Amico, and the podcast theme is Columbus local music for the most part. But from time to time, we do deviate from the main theme and have a special guest. So today we have Beth's cousin, Jay Front, who is in town visiting, and he's just a dynamic guy. We love Jay. And I've known him for 2.5 years now. I think I met Jay 2.5 years ago when Beth and I got together. And here we are in 2023, excuse me, hanging out on the weekend. And he's an interesting guy. Jay, say hello to Columbus.
Hey, Columbus. How you doing?
All right. And Jay is just a fantastic guy with just a ton of stories. And I thought that, it'd be interesting to learn a little bit about you and allow you to take the stage and just do your thing, man.
You're embarrassing me.
Not at all.
It's not that special, really, but thanks for having me on, Len, and thanks for coming into Beth's life and turning her around. She was really on a slide. Hey,
now listen,
sorry,
man.
Beth, I had to open it up.
There's no editing. Okay, like it's treated like a live
I'm just
show.
kidding. She's a super lady, and my best friend in this world, and I love her to death.
Absolutely. And you guys have your family roots in what city?
Wheeling, West Virginia.
Yeah. So
we all lived in Wheeling at one point. Her dad and her mom were my aunts and my mom's brother and sister. We come from a big family and lots of kids throughout, lots of grandkids. And one of the really cool things about it is every year we have a family reunion up in Oglebay Park in West Virginia, over there in Wheeling. And Beth and I kind of stayed in touch and connected over the years, and we would get together, and it's just, as you know, it's a barrel of laughs.
Oh, it's a great time for sure. Yeah. I got doused into that 2 years ago, and it's a big family.
Yeah, big family. And there's 6 kids in her family, 6 kids in my family, and they all had kids, and I've got kids. I got 2 daughters, and 11 and a 16-year-old. They're putting the years on me.
35.
Yeah, they're putting the years on me.
That's awesome, and it is a beautiful family, for everyone. So, from West Virginia, then, right?
Yeah.
We could talk.
I grew up
day.
backpacking and loved being downstate West Virginia, Otter Creek Wilderness. Yeah, going down to Cranberry Backcountry, Cranberry Wilderness, Dolly Sods Wilderness. These were special places to me growing up.
Yeah, you can't replace some of those memories with anything.
No, for sure not.
Beautiful. Well, one of the things I admire, Jay, one of the many things that I've admired about you, is the fact that you took it upon yourself to walk the Appalachian Trail.
Oh yeah, 1992.
And how old were you?
I was 32.
Okay.
And thanks for aging me there, Len. I appreciate that.
I'm going to target,
Yeah, just, I don't know, I was in between things in my life, and just read this article in National Geographic called A Tunnel Through Time, or The Green Tunnel, I believe was the name of it, and the Big Green Tunnel. And I was in a doctor's office, read this article, I was in between things, and said, I'm going to do that. And I set out in April 1992 and walked 2,170 some odd miles to Mount Katahdin in Maine, in the northern part of Maine, and finished October 15th, 92. So it took about 6 months, 172 days.
That's amazing.
And 22 showers.
So what state did you start? I'm sorry.
Started in Georgia.
Okay.
It starts in Georgia and runs through 14 states up into northern Maine.
And so, did you reside in Georgia, or did you just?
No,
how'd
that's
you-
where the trail begins, and so I got a ride up to Georgia from a buddy of mine who drove me up, one evening in the middle of the woods and dropped me off. Said, "You've lost your mind, and I'm out of here."
let you go.
He drove off, and I stood there looking at the start of the trail, and all alone, and it's getting dark, and I got to put some miles in. And I started thinking, "What have I done?"
What are the things that you had to do that you remember that prepared you for shoe wear,
Oh,
clothes?
yeah, I
food?
spent a year. Interestingly, I spent a year driving from Jupiter, Florida, where I lived at the time, and I was renting a house, or owned a townhouse down there, and I was renting it out to a buddy of mine, and he's my roommate. And I would drive every weekend to Orlando, 2 hours, and spend the whole weekend in an outdoor store up there because it was the only outfitter around, buying gear, going through gear, and learning about backpacks and rainwear and all that, and just planning the whole thing, food drops, mail drops, all that.
How's the food drop scenario work?
Well-
when you say you plan it, like
Well, yeah, because you have the trail runs near or through towns along the way, so you kind of figure how many days food you can carry, and you look at the map and you figure out, okay, well, I'm going to be in, say, Damascus, Virginia by this date or around this date, and you send your mail boxes to it's called general delivery in the post office, and you can address something to your name, care of general delivery, post office, so-and-so, Damascus, Virginia, please hold for Appalachian Trail through hiker. And when I finally got to that town, I would, either hitch a ride into the town or walk into the town and, get off the trail for a day, get your mail dropped. And, my roommate would ship the box to me, a month or so ahead of time. And I only had one box that didn't show up out of, I think I had 20 something mail drops for that period of time for 6 months.
that's really good planning, right?
No, it didn't work out like that at all. It never does.
Yeah. Well, best laid plans, right?
Yeah.
So, did you know that it was going to take 6 months to get the whole trail?
Yeah. You have an idea of what your pace is going to be able to be. Well, you always overestimate what you think you can do, and then when you get out there, the trail will beat you into shape. And it becomes more of a mental thing once you get your trail legs, and you get a few weeks in, and you get the physical hurt and pain under control. Then the mental part comes in, and then by then you're normally into what we call Trailzilla, or Virginia as it's known, and it's the biggest state that you go through. Over 25% of the trail goes through the state of Virginia. So it's while it goes through 14 states, a quarter of the trail is in Virginia, and you just you're used to covering miles, and you have these mile markers that these places, state lines that you'd cross. Okay, here's Georgia, now here's North Carolina, here's Tennessee, and then you're in Virginia, and then all of a sudden you're still in Virginia, and you're hiking for weeks, and you're still in Virginia, and it's been raining, or it's been cold and snowing, and it's tough.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Well, first of all, when you packed, how heavy was that pack?
So the backpack, my pack, weighed with water and fully with a full like maybe 10-day supply of food. It would be a week to 10 days. The pack would be 45 pounds or so. You want to keep a pack to about under 25 or 30% of your body weight.
It's still a haul, though,
It's
right?
up and down
You're
mountains.
walking 6 months.
Yes. You burn the equivalent. They did a study, and you burn the equivalent of running two 26-mile marathons every day. You burn over 5,000 calories a day on the trail. You can't replace the calories that you're burning. Wow. I lost 40 pounds
over the course of 6 months.
Yeah, over the course of 6 months. Yeah, I mean, nothing fit me when I came back.
Well, what are you eating?
So you're eating easily water-based prepared foods. Ramen noodles, mac and cheese was a big favorite of mine. Peanut butter, instant coffee, instant oatmeal, lots of granola, gorp as we would call it, good old raisins and peanuts. And, you'd get all kinds of snack bars. My favorite was a Snickers bar, I mean, lunch might be a bagel. Bagels traveled better than bread because bagels wouldn't smash up as easy in your backpack as a loaf of bread would, you can imagine. So I like to pack plain bagels and smear on some peanut butter and eat that. Or one of my favorites was I always carried a bottle of hot sauce, a little bottle of hot sauce with me. Weight is a big factor. So you got to be really careful about your weight, but I would allow a few extra ounces for hot sauce because I eat it on everything. I loved the hot sauce with some pepperoni and some squeezed margarine, if you can believe it. Squeezed margarine was huge because it didn't have to be refrigerated. God knows what's in it. But it was tons of calories and just gave you fuel. And that's what it was. It was like you're fueling an engine. A meal didn't become a pleasurable thing so much as a necessity, like putting gas in your car. And you just sit and you just start eating, and you're just not even thinking. You're just putting in the fuel.
It's amazing. Now, where are you taking rest? Where are you?
So you slept. I slept. What? There are shelters out on the trail, but they're normally pretty crowded, especially early in the trail. They're, the year that I hiked, almost 3,000 people attempted to through hike the whole trail, according to the registry, in 1992, and 280 finished. I was one of the 280 over the course of that year. Nowadays, those numbers have gone up significantly. It's become far more popular, far more crowded, to the point where there's not room in the shelters anymore. When you leave within what they call the bubble, which is between, February and, say, May of the springtime, everybody starts setting out to head northbound on the trail. So the option is you can wait and hike southbound, but that sets its own set of challenges up if you start in the north and head south. So a lot of times what they recommend you do is a flip-flop hike, which is you hike north almost halfway or so and then flip-flop and head north and then hike south, especially if you're afraid of not finishing in time, because the mountain up in Mount Katahdin in Maine by mid-October is a very cold, brutal place, and snow is flying and you can get snowed in, as almost happened to us. We missed it by, I finished October 15th, and October 16th that year, they closed the mountain to everybody. If you could hike all the way there and be stopped, and they won't let you go up because it's too dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, but you did make it.
Yeah. I made it. I met some people out on the trail. I started out alone. And, for the first couple of weeks, I was, camping and walking by myself and sleeping by myself. And then you meet other people, and kind of a loose-knit trail family you have, guys that you're hiking with, people that you know, and, older guys, younger guys, women, all types, all walks of life are out there. Especially now, there are 5,000-6,000 people a year attempting a through hike, and the success rate has gone up to, 20% now instead of 10%.
Is that because the trail with all the traffic has become maybe a little easier? Or
Well,
are there other factors?
easier, not physically. It's the same. It's as difficult to hike as ever physically, but mentally. And as I said before, the trail is a mental challenge more than anything. You can't go out there and expect to beat this 6-month challenge and do it like a race. Very few people are able to have that mentality. But if you go out there and just live day to day, you can adapt to it better. The problem is, you're isolated. Back then, there weren't cell phones and all the ways of communicating, social media and YouTube and blogging and all this that is popular now. And they actually have etiquette for shelters and campsites where, hey, keep your screen down, don't turn your phones on at night because other people don't want to see that light from civilization out there in the wilderness, but it's changed entirely. And I think the success rate is increased because now you can hike with a cell phone and, have music the whole way and, call your friends almost whenever you want. And, there's a lot more cell signal, although it's still remote. It's a lot easier to stay in touch.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
and that's a big part of the challenge is when you're out there and you're isolated, it becomes a mental battle where now you can call home. You still have the physical wear and tear on your body, but at least the mental part, you can call home, make sure everything's okay, get some re-encouragement, hey, change your food drop, do this and that, whatever you need to do to, help you succeed.
With the years that have passed, what, are there any moments that you reflect on that are significant to you?
Yeah, I guess I remember, bad weather events, tough climbs. There was a snowstorm that hit in 92 and dropped a couple of feet of snow in the beginning of May. I had left October 24th, and about May 6th, I was up in North Carolina, and I had met a couple other people, Wayward Sun and Polar Bear were their trail names. My trail name was the Yogi Master. We can go into that later, and this snowstorm blew up. Woke up one morning, Polar Bear and I were fixing breakfast and just getting ready to break camp and start out on a trail. And he goes, "Do you hear that?" And I said, "No." He goes, "Yeah, that's it." He goes, "I don't hear anything either. There's no birds." It was gray. It was cold. And it was spring in, North Carolina. Not, we're not up north. And I'm like, "Yeah, that's weird." He goes, "I don't know. It's creepy. Let's get out of here." I said, "Yeah, okay, we better hurry up." So, we started packing up, and as we started getting ready to go, flurry started coming down, and then started snowing heavier, and pretty soon it was dumping on us, and we're walking faster, and the snow was coming down so hard that it was weighing our packs down, literally laying on your packs, sticking to everything, and we'd have to brush the snow off each other's backpack, and the ground was getting covered, and the trail was marked with white blazes on trees, and the snow in sideways, and it's sticking to the trees, and you couldn't even see the blazes, and we kept losing the trail. And now there's almost, 8-10 inches of snow up high. We're at 4,000 feet up on Waya Mountain, and we're coming into Bryson City, North Carolina was our next stop. Happened to be that was going to be the next day. But we skipped lunch, powered through, and started coming to the descent down into the valley. And as we got off the mountain, the snow changed to rain, and the white turned to green. And we walked down the valley, and it was warmer down there, and the snow stopped. It wasn't even snowing down there. It was just raining and messy. But it was just wild. But as we came into Bryson City, the word was that there was this huge storm that had come in, and hikers were stranded all through the Smokies, and they were rescuing. And so we holed up in at the Nantahala Outdoor Center in Bryson City, and we holed up there for 3 days, and just
3 days,
yeah,
really.
Yeah, couldn't get out until the snow abated a little bit, and then we hiked on.
Wow.
it was nice to be in a town with some beers and
For a change.
and food.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah, you just order from a menu. You just put your hand over one side of the menu and go, I'll have this. I'll have this side.
So were you carrying personal protection? Like,
No, you really don't. You
don't
don't
need that?
Yeah, no, you don't. The trail is actually one of the safer places in the world. Far be it from news sources and stuff to tell you, but if they did a study one time and said that if the Appalachian Trail were a city with the number of people that hike on it and everything, you wouldn't even need a police force to work 1 out of every 4 days. Not even a full-time police. It's just a safer place to be. The most dangerous places on the trail are usually near the towns or the road crossings. That's where, you run into the iffy characters and, but you just keep to yourself and, push on. It's funny, the questions people ask you, like they can't grasp what you're doing. And you come out of the woods and you walk along a road. I came to this old timer sitting in a pickup truck in Tennessee, and I was just tying my shoe, and he looked at me and he said, he goes, you hiking? I said, yes, sir. Pretty obvious, standing there with a beard and a backpack on, And he said, where'd you start? I said, Georgia. He thought about it for a minute. And he said, where are you headed? I said, Maine, sir. He goes, that's a fur piece. I said, yes, sir. He goes, that's a hell of a car ride. I said, yes, sir. He thought about it for another minute. He goes, why? I said, just something I always wanted to do. He said, you're not getting paid? I said, no, sir. He goes, you're doing this on purpose? I said, yes, sir. He goes, you're attached, son, ain't you? Like I'm crazy.
Well, you're not crazy. I mean, it's like
that's yet to be seen.
It's a personal journey, isn't it?
Really was. And I had the opportunity to raise money for Beth's niece, Kelly, who was diagnosed, and God rest her soul, succumbed to leukemia so many years ago. And I was able to turn the energy and the interest that the hike, created into a way to raise money. I contacted the Leukemia Society, and they printed up forms for me, and I put them out in my hometown in Jupiter and raised, several $1,000s, not a great amount these days, but raised a lot of money for the Leukemia Society in honor of Kelly.
So awesome.
Yeah, it was great. We miss her. Right, Beth?
We did.
Oh my. Yeah. And how wonderful, to be able to have that.
Oh, it was great. Yeah.
Gifted.
Yep. Yeah. Great
for that
time.
cause.
Coming back into civilization was a real adjustment,
So you, anything else significant that you along the way
Oh,
recall?
there's so many stories.
Yeah.
Len.
Well, we only
from
have
bears and wildlife to the mice are a big problem with the
man.
shelters.
Well, that's right. Yeah.
People are worried about bears, and bears are an issue, especially nowadays. More so now than they were in the 90s, but the bear population has come back, in the eastern United States pretty significantly. But they're still not dangerous animals. They're like big black dogs, mostly, that eat berries. But they will, if they become accustomed to, if they connect humans to food, then that becomes a problem. So, you have to hang your food bag. But in the shelters, the mice, that's why I like to pitch a tent, because the mice were a problem. At night, you could hear them scurrying about the shelter, and they'd climb over you, and all the stories of waking up in the middle of the night with a skunk on your chest. Oh my God, that was Cold Spring Shelter in the Smokies. Woke up one night and looked over, and there's a polar bear sleeping, and there's a skunk climbing up onto the sleeping platform. And I shined my headlight at him, and I turned it off right away because you don't want to startle a skunk, especially in a closed place. But yeah, we had skunk encounters and mice encounters and snake encounters, and you get used to it.
And did you encounter a bear along the way?
Oh yeah, I saw a couple of bears.
Couple.
Yeah, yeah. But the ones I saw, okay, one time was an aggressive bear. It was in the Smokies, and in the Smokies, they took to putting chain link fencing across the front of the shelter. The shelter is a 3-sided wooden platform with a roof and 3 walls, and it's open on the front, and inside is the sleeping platform and maybe a fire pit or something inside. But in the Smokies, they would put chain link fence up to keep the bears out, and you were asked to hang your food inside the shelter to keep it away from the mice, and the bear couldn't get to it. Well, the problem with that is if you you got to remember to shut the door when you leave the shelter. It's like to go get water or to use latrine. And this afternoon we hiked into a shelter in the Smokies, and we hung our food bags up, left our backpacks in the shelter, shut the door, and went out to get water. And we heard yelling coming from the shelter, and someone had come into the shelter, left their bag, and left the door open and walked out to go to the latrine or something. And we came back to see a bear inside with his backpack in his mouth. And this bear took off, running over the hill with this guy's backpack, carrying it in his mouth like it was a loaf of bread. Just like it didn't weigh anything, just dragging this thing down the trail, tore it to shreds, and
Man.
yeah.
Wow.
Crazy.
So did this travel companion did he follow you the whole way?
No.
It's just kind of in and out.
And I started out. I met a guy. The guy I hiked with the longest. I met him in the Smokies. His name was Looksdown. I'm not going to use real names here to protect the innocent.
Right.
But anyway, and then I met another guy along the way. His name was Polar Bear. And then there was Wayward Son and his dog Jesse, and there was Clink, and there was Bigfoot, and lots of characters along the way. And we had a good time. Rainmaker was another great guy, part of our team. Lots of stories.
For sure. And so when you ended in Maine, it's winter.
Yeah, it's just cold, snowing, and you got to make arrangements. You get up there, and then you have to leave early in the morning. Because the last climb up the last mountain is one of the hardest, steepest on the trail. It's a 5-mile. It's only a 5-mile hike, but it's 5 miles practically straight up. And it's hand over hand climbing, rock climbing, and it's above tree line. So when you get up there, you walk to the marker that's at the end of the trail, the 2,175 miles, Georgia to Maine Appalachian Trail sign. It's iconic photograph moment. There's often other people up there with you. And then there's this beautiful ridge line runs off into the northeast, and it's called the Knife's Edge. But normally what you do is you hike up and you touch the sign, have your moment, and then you double back to down the trail back to the campsite at the base of the mountain. When we finished, we were fortunate enough a guy came up to us. He was wearing a Florida jacket. He was from Maine, though. His family owned a bed and breakfast up there in Bangor or Bar Harbor somewhere, and asked us if he could take some pictures with us, because he had never been up there when a thru hiker was finishing their hike, and he goes up there every year, and it was a big time for him too. And he goes, "Hey, by the way, I've got some champagne I brought up here. Would you like some?" We're like, "Hell yeah!" And we dug into some champagne, and then he gave us out the idea of, well, listen, I'm parked down the back side of the mountain, And if you want, you guys can hike down with me and I'll ride you in my van back to the campsite. And we all look at each other and we're like, we get to hike out the Knife's Edge, which is gorgeous, dangerous, but gorgeous hike. And then drop down into Chimney Ponds campground and get in this guy's van. He's going to ride us back. Yeah, we're all in. He's got beers in the van. And so we're in. We became friends with him. We hiked down a mountain. The problem was that when you leave to start your ascent of the mountain, you have to sign in at a register at the beginning of the trail and let them know what time you expect to be back. And the rangers check this to, for safety reasons. We didn't think about that when we went down the backside. By the time we got finished and came all the way back around, it's a 25-mile ride around the perimeter road to the other campground where we were. And it was dark. And we get there and there's all these flashlights out and truck lights and ranger trucks. And we're wondering, what's all the ruckus? What are they doing? They're getting ready to start a search party for us.
Oh my God. Wow.
We're like, no, that's us, man. Sorry.
They
scolded us.
Mess around. Wow.
Yeah. So the next day we piled into a pickup truck in the back of a closed cab pickup truck in the back and rode 4 or 5 hours south to York, Maine, where a friend lived, and we stayed with him for a couple days, then hitchhiked down to Boston, and 2 of us started on our journey home from Boston and got on the L, and these were the first crowds I've been in 6 months, and it was shocking. I mean, it's like Boston, packed, trains, and oh my God, it was crazy.
Adjustment.
Yeah, quite the climate change.
Wow. So you felt the adjustment.
Uneasy, being in so many. You get so used to being alone in the woods, and it's funny. In the beginning, I couldn't wait to get to a town. When I was hiking, and by the time I became seasoned and conditioned for it, halfway to 3/4 of the way through to the end, when I came into a town, I couldn't wait to get out of the town and get back in the woods and go, yeah, there's peace. That's, nobody honking horns at you. And
how long did it take you to acclimate back into like
couple
a
of
city? Months.
Yeah, I slept on the floor
Wow.
next to the bed for a while. I couldn't sleep in bed really easily. I slept better on the floor. And that's common, some people it doesn't take much acclimation at all. For some reason, I guess I invested all too much into it or whatever.
Well, you're an emotional guy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So like I can see how that would occur with you.
Yeah, I became, so attached to it. I'm kind of a loyal kind of freak, and, became attached to the trail and
respected nature.
Oh,
right?
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely, man.
So that was spiritual, physical.
Very,
and
very spiritual, very
Emotional.
very eye-opening, emotional time for me. It really, really was the most difficult thing I ever did. But, it set me up. It gave me the confidence to go through life. I did this, I can do anything, and, to take a chance.
Oh man, it's so cool.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
inspiring.
Thank you, man. I enjoyed it.
Well, thanks for sharing
You
that
stink
story.
like hell when you finish.
Well, I was going to say, like, was there any bathing? Is there any,
We came, well, you don't take time to bathe. You wash up out there, but you don't shower regularly, or there's not time for it. It's a job. It's an A to B thing. And even though we would joke and say, hey, I got I got nowhere to go and all day to get there, you're still trying to walk from point A to point B and do it in a relatively significant amount of time, because you're walking with spring and trying to beat winter. But so you don't take showers frequently, but in towns, and I looked back through my register, I kept the journal, and I looked back through and counted all the towns that I was in, and multiplied that out. I took about 22 showers, maybe 24 showers over the period of 6 months. That's not a lot. So you're ripe, and this is not uncommon. Don't think I'm not well kept, and I'm not. But
I don't think I am either.
I'm not a high maintenance kind of guy.
COVID changed me.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
I'm not high maintenance.
So, wow, it's just amazing, man. Just really is. And so, a couple months after that journey, what'd you end up doing with yourself?
I didn't want to go back inside and work. I didn't. Had been in the restaurant business, and didn't really want to go back inside and do that. So when I came back to Jupiter, a friend of mine introduced me to Bill Ryan, who was a wealthy Chicago real estate guy who started some town and country homes and some big companies, and he lived in a development down there, and he hired me as a property manager. And for a couple of years, I worked for him and would just manage his beach properties and stuff, and did odd jobs here and there, and and then I fell into the whole World Cup story, which is a whole another story, and ended up starting a company with a couple of buddies in Orlando, and got into promotional products, and that's what I do now.
Yes. So you're an entrepreneur. You're running your own company.
Yeah.
You can.
Can I plug it here?
You can plug it right here, man.
Okay. Frontline Marketing. I do promotional products, screen printing, embroidered apparel for corporations, and I've got a sub company called Taproom Supplies, and we do the same thing for the craft beer industry around the country. Work with some great brewers, and I've got some great corporate customers, D.R. Horton Homes, and worked with Bank of America, and some really good corporations that I've got a small but loyal customer base, and we do all right. I work hard, but play harder too.
Oh yeah.
As you know.
Well, we'll be playing in Columbus, Ohio,
That's
little
right.
tiny bit.
Here for a couple days, so we're gonna cut it up a little bit.
Awesome.
Go listen to some music tonight, right?
Absolutely. That's our standby on the weekends. If we're not gig, we don't. Neither one of us has a gig this weekend.
No gig. That's right.
But,
you or Beth? No.
We will be. We will be seeing some of the folks.
That's why I love coming here.
It's a great music scene.
It really is. It blows me away. I always want to bring friends here and say, "Yeah, you got to come listen to this music scene here in Columbus."
Yeah, there's some great original music bands as well as cover bands. You get your every genre you could imagine. So it's really a lot of fun to be tooling around on the weekends. So Jay, just an amazing story. That was very condensed. I know there's so many stories in there.
I've told the story so many times. It's from body odor to snakes, and what did you eat and where did you sleep, and how do you readjust, and all of that is days and days. My wife just rolls her eyes now when oh God, here we go, another trail story.
It's still, but it's at the time, not the greatest communications, not the best, not the best.
No, so
way
you communicated. We would communicate it's a kind of a linear community, if you can imagine. And there are people that I had met and passed up, and they're behind me now, and people that I had met that are ahead of me and passed me up, and you write in a journal that you leave it's called the trail register. And you write it in a notebook, just kept in a plastic bag, hanging in a shelter on a nail on a wall. And you take the pen out and you sign in and go, hey, the Yogi Master was here, March 5th, or April 29th, and, a little bit about your day. And people behind you will come up and see that and know about where you are. and you share your plans. You know, hey, planning to hike 22 tomorrow to get into Double Springs Shelter, and then going to do another big day to get into, you know, Nowheresville, Virginia. And people would, you know, catch up to you or not catch up. I had a buddy, I mentioned him, Polar Bear, who we were great friends. We covered hundreds and hundreds of miles together. He was a part of our group. And then one day in Harper's Ferry, he stayed back a day. We hiked ahead and made plans that he was going to catch up in a couple days, and he never did. And he was behind us. It turned out, we learned later, he came to within like 6 hours of us at one point. He came into a town. We talked on the phone later after the trail was over, and, you know, what happened to you? And he's like, I almost caught back up to you guys. I read that you had just walked out of town that morning, and I came into town that afternoon. And that was the closest I came to catching back up to you guys. But, you know, you might meet somebody once and never see them again, or you might meet people and walk with them. Very difficult to stay with somebody, to have the exact same hiking pace, and, you know, companionship, relationships get very, very worn out there. It's, you know, it's something you probably need to do solo, or really, really like the person that you're with, because, you know, on a rainy, crappy day, you're sore, you stink, you're soaking wet, and you've got miles to do, and it's nasty out, and this is not going right, and that's not going right. You're already not in a great mood, and your partner is annoying you one way or another. The smallest things that just fray you. So, you know, they say if you want to figure out if you're meant to be married, take them on the trail.
take them on the Appalachian
Take them on a
Trail.
hike.
Wow. Well, again, Jay, I mean, you know, very intimate, very personal story. Appreciate you sharing that today.
I'm happy to do it. Thanks, man. I love being here. It's an honor.
Oh, I mean, yeah, family.
Love you, brother.
Love you too. You're a good man. And there's so many other stories, and maybe, you know, maybe within this topic, maybe, you know, outside. I mean, there's stuff you can.
Yeah, there's a lot of stories we can't
off
tell.
The air. Which I've heard.
It's been a colorful life, I'll tell you.
Yes, sir. And it's something that you should be proud of, for sure.
Thank you very much. I
Absolutely.
appreciate it. Yeah.
And so I think we're about out of time here. So we'll call this episode a special guest with Jay Front.
The Yogi Master.
The Yogi Master.
A.K.A. Koozie.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, buddy.
We'll see you soon.
All right.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.